Welcome to my channel if this is the first video of mine that you are watching, but if it is not, welcome back. Today I am going to be answering the questions of the In My Wildest Dreams book tag, and I was tagged by Bookish Chaz, so I will leave a link to his video and his channel down below. Make sure you go and check out his answers to these questions because I think he did an incredible job. As you might be able to tell, I am getting over the remnants of a summer cold. So I apologize if my voice goes in and out a little bit here, but because I'm still feeling a little bit congested and sounding a little bit nasally, the cocktail that I have decided to pair with today's Distilled Reads video is just a nice and simple hot toddy. It's a little bit too warm outside to be drinking a hot toddy, but I think this is just perfect for how I am feeling today. So I made myself a really strong cup of tea, added in a slice of lemon, a couple teaspoons of honey, and then just a splash of whiskey. And it is smelling amazing and I cannot wait to taste it because I think this is gonna feel amazing on my throat. So cheers. Yeah, no, that feels amazing. Okay, so with this by my side, let's dive right into the questions. The very first question is my fantasy time and place to read a book. And I don't know if this question is intended to mean a fantastical setting or just rather my ideal time and place to read a book. Chaz answered this question as his ideal time and place to read a book. So that's what I am going to do too. And I'm very simple. I do agree with Chaz that reading on a beach is one of my favorite things to do. And I do it fairly often throughout the summer here. But I think my ideal time and place to read is actually being really super cozy indoors with a really atmospheric storm taking place outside. Think like a thunderstorm with some rain that's adding that ambient sound, and just being curled up in my armchair with a hot beverage and under a blanket. That I think is my ideal time and place to read. I love being cozy and I love losing track of the hours and having a whole day dedicated to just reading. So that would be my ideal time and place. And hopefully when Wind and Truth comes out this December, I will be able to recreate that environment, that time and place, and I can curl up in my armchair for a full day or a full several days and do nothing but make my way through the 5th Stormlight Archive book. The second question is my fantasy personal library, or my personal library if I have already attained my fantasy. I would say I have gotten very close to attaining my personal library fantasy with this apartment here. I built 8-foot tall bookcases in what I refer to as my library because it's a little parlor room, and that's my dedicated library space. I have my books organized by genre and then alphabetically by author's last name. And then here in my living room, I have this gorgeous bookcase that's 8 feet wide, not 8 feet tall, but 8 feet wide. And I have some antique encyclopedias from the late 1800s on the very top shelf, and then I go into my fantasy books. So all of my adult fantasy books are on this shelf here, organized again by author's last name, and a few are organized out by series, and I keep all of my Sandersons together. And then I have another bookcase in this room here that has all of my middle grade and YA fantasy books. So I am so, so happy with how I've been able to organize my books in this apartment. And if you remember the wall of books that I had in my previous apartment, I adored the look of that, but there was no organization really by the time I moved out. I had outgrown that space in terms of book storage. And I am getting very close to filling all of these new bookcases as well, but I absolutely love the way that I have it all set up here. I wouldn't say this is my ideal fantasy personal library, because I would love to have basically the equivalent of these two rooms, the equivalent of my current living room and library combined, and just have it wall-to-wall bookshelves. I have a lot of windows in this apartment, a lot of light. I love it, but it does mean that I'm kind of restricted on what walls I can put bookcases on. So I'd love a dark wood paneled, painted with dark colors, really cozy, atmospheric library with these really tall ceilings, floor to ceiling bookshelves, and then I would be able to have a rolling ladder, because I don't think my fantasy personal library will ever be attained until I have a rolling ladder. And once I have a rolling ladder and I can just slide back and forth between genres, between books, then I think I will have achieved success in my personal and professional life. And that will be my dream fantasy personal library. But I think I have gotten closer than I ever have before in this apartment, and that makes me really, really happy. This third question is a whole lot of fun, and it is: imagine you have decided to build a bookshop. What would you call it? Would it sell new or secondhand books? Would it sell anything else? And what features would you want in that shop? Now, owning a bookshop has been a pipe dream of mine for years and years and years, and I have spitballed ideas and fantasies with several friends of what we would love that bookstore to look like. So I'd love to have really high ceilings, I'd love to incorporate stained glass, and I would love a mezzanine level where there could be cozy little reading areas with like winged armchairs and low lighting lamps to create that really cozy atmosphere, as well as having a elevator and making it as accessible as possible to everyone, even though I imagine that like cozy mezzanine level with like a winding spiral staircase, I would also want a very accessible elevator for those people who can't easily or readily walk up a aesthetic looking spiral staircase. I think what I would call it, I mean, my channel name, DistilledReads, because I would love to incorporate a cafe and a bar into that bookshop so that I could serve up cocktails, serve up great coffee, and also include a bakery, because I love to bake. My friend Rebecca, who I have fantasized about this bookshop with as well, also loves to bake, and she is amazing at baking. So I think it would just be so much fun to offer up some unique square or dessert alongside coffee or tea, and then also serve up cocktails, because Distilled reads. I think that would just be a whole lot of fun. I definitely would like to sell new and secondhand books. I think it would be amazing to have new and upcoming authors to hold author events, but then also have that treasure trove atmosphere with finding those books that you never knew you were looking for. And I think that is attained most easily through secondhand offerings. I adore secondhand bookshops, but I would also like to include new releases as well, so that there could be really fun author events in store and like author Q&As and author signings. So I'd love to have both. And in terms of what else it would sell, Chaz touched on this too, but I think being able to sell other bookish type items is great too. I'd love to be able to highlight local vendors, local creators who create bookmarks or bookish candles or bookish mugs. There are so many of those type of small businesses. I also live in a little bit of a tourist town, so I think that would be a really good seller as well, of just like little trinkets. I adore myself a little trinket, and I'd love to offer those in my fantasy bookshop as well. The fourth question is one person, not a Booktube creator, with whom you can have a good conversation about books. If you don't know a person like this, who do you know that you wish would become a reader so that you could talk books with them? Now, I am very, very lucky in that most of the friends in my immediate circle are big readers. And I think that's in part due to that's how I bond with people. I am that person who will bring up books. Case in point, the first time Sarah and I ever met up, we ended up chatting books for like 4 hours. I just latch onto that, and like attracts like, I think. So anyone within my very close circle of friends and loved ones, they're all big readers, and there are common threads. We might not read all of the same type of books, but there's that common interest so that each of us can talk about what book we were reading, and even if it's not a genre or a particular book that the other person would perhaps read on their own, there's that common shared interest. So we engage in conversation and listen to the other person rant and rave about whatever they're reading at that time. So I'm really, really lucky and fortunate in that regard. So whenever we meet up, it usually turns into a conversation about what books we have been reading. Then the fifth and final question of the In My Wildest Dreams book tag is, if you won $1 million or whatever currency is in your country, and you could only spend it on books or book related items, how would you spend it? And this is where Chaz has inspired me, because I very selfishly heard $1 million for books and started thinking about all of the first editions that I could purchase and all of the complete series and the different editions. And I think that is because, as you can tell, I'm a little bit of a book hoarder. I am someone who loves to collect books. I think of myself as a dragon, and my books are my hoard, and I just love to be surrounded by all of my books and all of my hoard. But Chaz is much more minimalistic in which books he collects, and had an amazing answer for this that was much more benevolent than my first instinct. So I'm going to take a little bit inspiration from that. I do think that I would use that $1 million to buy a storefront and to set up my bookshop. And then I would use the remainder to create a literacy fund of some sort to work with local communities and help support the local libraries. And if I had enough money, like not even just local, perhaps on a national level, that would be amazing to help support the local libraries in whatever capacity that I can, to help with their outreach programs, to help donate books to their organizations, to just try and promote literacy and to help get books into the hands of children and youth and adults who might not be able to get themselves to a library or be able to afford books or have low reading comprehension and therefore need a little bit more encouragement, need that helping hand. I would love to be able to create some sort of literacy fund and have that coincide with a bookshop. And maybe I would set aside like 50,000? Is that really selfish? Maybe like 10,000. I'd set aside like 10,000 so that I could buy all of my books that I selfishly want, and then funnel everything else into opening up a bookshop and setting up some sort of literacy fund. I think that's a happy marriage between my selfish book hoarding ways and also trying to give back to the community, which if I had $1 million, there is no way that I should spend all of that money on books. So I think that's the happy medium for me personally. But that is all for the In My Wildest Dreams book tag. The only thing left to do is to tag someone else to film this video. But I don't know who has already answered these questions or who wants to film this tag, so I am just going to do an open invitation. If you are watching this video and you would like to participate in this tag, please feel free. I am tagging you. Film this video, answer these questions, and let me know in a comment down below or tag me in the description of your video if you do decide to do this tag, because I would love to hear your answers to these questions. I think this was a really fun little mosey down our fantasy bookish dreams. So I hope that you have fun with this tag if you decide to do it too. But for now, that is it for me. Thank you so very much for watching this video, and I will be back soon with a new one. Bye for now.